Have you ever bought a game and had instant buyer's remorse after playing it, but didn't refund it because you had faith that one day it would get better? As much potential as I feel Ark has, this is the exact feeling that I had when I first bought the game. The trailer was certainly not representative of what the game looked like. It was not representative of what the game ran like, but when I got the game, it was said to come to consoles, and when I heard that, I knew that optimization would be on their list of things to fix, and I definitely had hope for this game. So how's it done? At least in my eyes. Well, let's get into it and find out. I want to say this before we start though. I have a few friends who absolutely love this game, and I don't hate this game at all. Some of the things I'm going to say in this video are going to be a bit harsh, but I think the faults need to be acknowledged. That's how early access games get better. So without further ado, let's begin. Now I gotta say, when you first launch the game from Steam, you get this huge list of options to choose from. They really want this game to be played by everyone, and I love how many options you have here. There's an anti-cheat options for modding communities, low memory options for those with less RAM, Arc with NVIDIA Ansel, which is really cool if you know what Ansel is, and really, there are so many different options here for almost any problem you could have. Now this does show me that the game isn't running well for some, but also that the developers care about that and are on top of it. So let's get into the game. So of course we're going to start off in the settings menu. The game has an impressive amount of tweakability, and I always admire devs giving more options to the player. You have your resolution option, which pretty much covers most, if not all, 16:9 ratios. Now, I'm not sure if there are more in here like 4:3 or 16:10, as I don't actually have a monitor using that ratio, and I'm not super familiar with those numbers, but from what I can tell, this will be able to accommodate pretty much any monitor. You got your windowed mode next, full screen borderless and windowed, which is standard these days, and I love that. Graphics quality, which is most likely where you'll be frequenting, and I'll go over this later, but from my experience, I've probably spent more time adjusting these than I have playing the game. You have your sky quality, cloud clutter density, cloud clutter distance, and then you have settings that you find in most other titles like anisotrophic filtering, motion blur, film grain, a few different ambient occlusion options, tessellation, which I like that it tells me that you need to restart. Most games make you figure that out. Ahem, GTA, ahem, No Man's Sky. Dynamic field shadowing, high quality materials, subsurface scattering, high quality VFX, which is kind of like film grain, simple distance character movements, high quality LODs, extra level streaming distance, color grading, light bloom, light shafts, and mesh level of detail, and then you can also choose your network bandwidth, which is kind of nice as well, and these are only the graphic settings. I really love how many options you can tweak and fix and find your spot, and this game really needs that because it's not at a point where it's been optimized a ton yet, so the fact that a lot of these aren't crammed together into one setting is nice, and really helps a lot. One thing that I could suggest them adding is a VRAM marker, kind of like in GTA 5. I know those are two entirely separate games, but this game could really benefit from this. The next menu screen is audio, and before I start, I think a good way to clean up these menus is to put them in their own tags. See, most games have 5 different settings on the screen, and in those, then you have your graphics, and your audio, and your key bindings. When I first loaded into this game to change my settings, I was a bit overwhelmed by how messy it is in here, and things like that can really put people off. Anyway, you have your master volume, which is always great to have, music, sound effects, voice, and then you have camera shake, which I'm so glad this is in here. Same with FOV. This game makes me motion sick beyond all else, but these two settings save the game, and most games actually only allow you to change the FOV, so kudos for the camera shake option. You've got your invert settings, sensitivity, then a bunch of different sound and overlay settings like inventory sounds and damage overlays, which is kinda cool because as I will get into later, I don't like RPG and MMO mechanics in games like this, so turning these overlays off is nice. Lastly, we have our key bindings, which are all customizable, and I do suggest customizing a few. Control, for some reason, is pistol whip / melee, even though you melee with the mouse, so I unassigned that and made control crouch, as I always do in video games. Some people like C, I like control. Next, inventory is I. I like that to be tab so it's right next to my hands, but the point is it's not what I like. I'm just always happy when devs let you mess with the key bindings, and these devs didn't take that annoying approach like a lot of other games do where let's say crouch was C and you wanted to change it to control, so you click on it, change it, and now crouch is C and control. I really don't like that, and I'm glad they made this easy. And then of course you have controller settings, which displays an Xbox controller and its controls. Don't know why you would use a controller in a game like this on PC, but the option is there for you if you want. Now, is there anything missing from these settings menus? Well, I think a brightness setting could be really helpful, but then again, the way that the bloom is in this game, it makes the brightness setting really difficult. See, at night in this game, you literally cannot see a thing. Okay, so then implement a brightness setting. Right. but then in the daytime it's almost blindingly bright. So I'd have to go in every morning and every night to adjust that one setting, and I think revamping this altogether could really be nice. Other than that, all the settings are here and they're well done. I again admire the depth in which we can customize. Now, the server browser is pretty messy, but that's typical for these sorts of games. However, I will say that I've seen it done better, and I would hope this gets cleaned up a bit. Aside from that, when you pick a server and jump in, you get to customize your character. And I gotta say the customization is pretty good for a game like this. These developers really do believe in options, and I truly admire that. You have your hair color, your eye color, your head size, upper face size, lower face size, and I'm not going to go into all of them as they're on the screen for you, but I really like the level that they let you customize. It's not too advanced, but enough to make every character unique if you try. You can also choose a female character, which is pretty nice, but if I have any negative things to say, which you know I always do, the fact that all of this is so customizable and free, it means you can come up with some really ridiculous things, but that's more on the player than anything else, and I like that extra uniqueness. So it's time for the first gripe that I have with this game. See, this game runs like crap. Of course, it is an early access game, so optimization is still on its way, but at high and medium settings, I get around 40 FPS. Low settings, I get 60 to 80 FPS, and then on ultra, I get around 20 to 30. Well, Barry, why not just adjust the game setting by setting? You said it offered a ton of customization. And that's true, it does, but it also doesn't. See, this game runs on Unreal 4, which is a beautiful engine, but for some reason the way this game was made, if I try to adjust my own settings, this happens. I'll show you a bunch of different configurations too. The game looks like garbage if you manually adjust it, so the only thing you can really do is use their custom presets, ultra to lowest, and then deal with the frame rate. Because of this, the game is probably going to be around 40 FPS, and it's not just like this in 1440p. I've also tested the game at 1080p with the exact same result, and that's a bit disappointing because Unreal 4 looks like an amazing engine and I've seen some really gorgeous things from it. So the fact that this game looks so unfortunately mediocre and then runs like this? Again, it's early access, what can I really expect? And as time goes on, I'm sure the game will look amazing and run the same. We'll just have to wait for that. So what do we do in this game? What's the goal? Well, the game is an open-world survival game with RPG aspects. The game is focused around humans and dinosaurs coexisting, and you have to find a way to survive, thrive, and use dinosaurs to aid you on any adventure you decide to go on. Altogether, there will be other groups of people in the same server striving to do the same thing, and the game turns into a turf war, which is a great premise, but not well executed. See, in games like this, you gotta make sure that the starting player can work his way up and stay alive as he begins his journey. Problem is, he's not only fighting against other players, but against carnivorous dinosaurs, and as cool and scary as that may sound, dinosaurs in here are not intimidatingly scary as they are annoying. Especially when you spawn in after dying only to be killed by a raptor. Spawn in again, then you're killed by a giant wasp, then a T-Rex, then a Dilophosaurus, then another player, and the problem is not just the spawn points. There are way more problems than just that. Firstly, a lot of these dinosaurs that kill you were most likely pack hunters, raptors specifically, and though you will find raptors together sometimes, the dinosaur layout is so random and messy. Dinosaurs are just spawned in. They don't have any characteristics that make them unique. If you knew nothing about dinosaurs, you wouldn't be able to tell a carnivore from an herbivore. The herbivores normally just ignore you unless you start a fight, in which case they'll attack back and you'll probably die. There's no sneak up and kill it from a weak spot because of the RPG-like aspects that I talked about before. So you gotta just level up to do damage, and I'll get into that soon. The carnivores, on the other hand, just come out of nowhere and kill you almost instantly, and this would be scary, except for the dramatic music that plays when you get into a fight or an enemy has locked onto you. I just feel the game is a mess. Carnivores normally only fight carnivores by accident, even if they're of a different species, and after one dino kills another, there's no eating. They just move on, and for a game that is supposed to focus on realism, this lets me down. And that's just the AI, but it's time to say something nice about the game before I go too far. One thing I really like about this game in respect to the AI is how much they like to utterly screw your day. Building houses and shelters is pretty much the only way to stay alive through the game, but depending on the dinosaur, they could and do just waltz right in and ruin everything you worked so hard to build, and I actually really like this. In a lot of other survival games, you're automatically the strongest and scariest thing out there, especially once you build a base. But in this game, you're bottom of the food chain, and that feeling that you constantly have to try and outdo nature, that constant survival of the fittest, toughest will survive concept, it really shows in this game. Now comes the multiplayer. You're probably aware of this, but this game pretty much thrives on multiplayer. That extra kick. Not only are you fighting dinosaurs, but you're also fighting others as well, and just like other survival games, there will be people who kill you on sight, and there will be those who want to team up, which is also a nice dynamic. However, when I play a game like Rust, I could jump into a map, find a guy with the biggest base, break in after hours of hard work and steal everything from him. The weakest guy on the map could have the wits alone to be the strongest guy on the map, whereas in this game, if you just spawn into a server, you won't make it going against anyone. See, this game, as well as Rust now, has a leveling up system. I hate leveling up systems. I hate them in RPGs, I hate them in MMOs, and I especially hate them in survival games. I've always thought of these games as more brain versus brawn, where intelligent players, despite being the weakest guy, could outwit their opponents and still come out on top. But games like this that require you to level up before you can craft a spear or make a campfire, you are limiting me and making me waste my time on these stupid prerequisites. I really feel that Rust had this down. They had a system where you could, from the get-go, build the basics, torches, campfires, those kinds of things were easily accessible to you. Then the more advanced craftables like guns and explosives, you had to find and research and discover how it worked. Only then would you be able to build it, or you would have to stumble upon a blueprint for it, and I really liked that, because then nothing was hindered, nothing was hidden away, and anyone could find a gun somewhere and research it, and it was a chance. Sometimes researching it would give you nothing, and you'd have to try again with a new gun because you broke your old one trying to research it, and I loved that. It was well done. But alas, nothing good lasts forever, because even Rust has succumbed to this stupid leveling up system. Now, why do I hate this system? What's wrong with it? Well, there are a few things. Firstly, if I join a server that people have been playing on for weeks, again, I can't even try to engage with them. See, as you level up in Ark, you can level up your health and stamina and food and pretty much anything else that can give you an edge. Not only that, but leveling up gives you the ability to buy engrams that allow you to craft things like weapons and armor. So not only is the new guy armorless, he has less health and stamina, and he literally has to grind from the get-go and have fun later. That's why I hate RPG elements. They waste your time when all I want to do is have fun, join teams, or take over bases. But no. Instead, I have to wait and let the game hold my hand before I'm allowed to do anything cool. You're even locked out of these glowy sky crates. Other games have loot drops that you have to fight over. Anyone can run over to a supply drop and try to get what's inside, and it's a bloodbath of fun in most other games. In Ark, nobody cares about them because firstly, they're literally everywhere, and secondly, you have to be a certain level to even access them. What's the point? Another stupid part about this RPG level up system is it destroys the realism that sandbox survival games try to give. In games like this, traditionally, if I shoot something in the head, it dies. In the body, it loses health until it bleeds out, and I love that. It's realism, immersion. But in Ark, if I shoot something in the head, or stab it with a spear, I have to worry about what level it is. There is no where I hit it, or will it bleed out. There's only its level and its amount of health, and that has always removed me from games. I don't like RPGs, but really, that's just a me thing. A lot of people love this setup, and the devs wanted to go for this setup, and who am I to tell them they shouldn't? This is their vision, and I respect that fully, but I personally have never liked this. Now real quick, I want to talk about the character. The game is a survival game, so again, it wants to portray realism. So your character gets hungry and tired, and you have to supply what he needs. But this game I think went a bit too touchy with it. Stand in the sun for 3 seconds, you're too hot. Get in the water, you're too cold. There's no Goldilocks point. You're never just right. Your character is always complaining about something, and now that I think about it, it makes sense why my character dies so much. He wusses out about every small thing. Anyway, you gotta eat and drink and maintain the perfect temperature while you're dealing with carnivorous lizards and leveled players, and it kinda has become a first-person Sims game in this aspect. I've never really enjoyed the eat and drink to survive thing, but some games do it really well. Others make it too tedious, and I feel like this game makes it extremely tedious. Tone that down a bit and you're good. This should only affect you in official servers though, as anyone can make a server and you can adjust literally everything having to do with this. So, tiny gripe. I'm starting to feel a little bad here. I really do like this game and I would actually like to play it more. It was a pretty good price tag, but there are so many aspects that I dislike so much that it just pulls me out. Now, of course, I cannot make a video on Ark without talking about the DLC fiasco that happened with it. If you don't know, this game is in early access, and respectable games don't typically make DLC while the game is in early access. However, they have made a $20 expansion pack, and this did not do well for them. Reason being is that when a game is in early access, the promise is that you, the consumer, purchased a product that is not finished, and we, the developer, are going to do so. Adding DLC is not a very cool thing to do. But Barry, they had a full dev team almost doing nothing as their artists and programmers were working on dinosaurs to add into the game, as well as optimization. Well, this could be true, however, that dev team could arguably have been working alongside them. The game to this day still does not run very well. Okay, but the game has already given all, if not more, content than it initially promised. The game isn't even technically early access anymore. And that may be true as well, but the devs to this day still say that the game is in early access for many reasons. One being the way the game plays. Others will argue that the game doesn't have all the content promised. And even on Steam, the game still says early access. If the game was finished and they're using early access to hide behind it being a broken released game, I would have a much bigger problem. But I don't personally think that this game is much more than early access as of right now. Okay, Barry, these devs went through a huge lawsuit recently. They lost tons of money that they needed to make this game, and the only way to keep their funding was to make this DLC and get their community to help them out. And as true as that is, these developers, as open as they are, did not come out and say, hey look, guys, we've taken a huge financial hit and we'd like to make some DLC in order to make up for our losses. Had they asked their community to help them out, I don't think anyone would have had an issue with this DLC. Of course, hindsight's always 20/20, and to have thought of this would have done them well. Now don't blame me, I'm just trying to see this from both sides, and I've actually talked with some of the devs before. They're great people and they truly want to make a great game. Am I mad about the DLC? Well, no. They aren't forcing me to buy it, and I don't think I will get it until the game does fully release. And not because I'm taking some sort of stand against them, but because I actually don't have much fun playing the game in its current state. The frame rate is awful, the textures need lots of work, especially for an Unreal 4 game. The dinosaurs having literally no AI makes the world feel bland and messy, and the leveling up system is horrid. Now only a few of these things are necessary to me, but even if they did not fix this game will still and has already done well. I would say, however, that shoving the DLC down my throat as I'm trying to join a server or leave a server, that's going a bit too far, guys, and that does actually annoy me a lot. If I want the DLC, I'll go buy it, but directing me to the store page after I leave or enter a server? Not okay. In all, I really do like this game. It has a ton of content already there, the price tag isn't bad, even at full price, and the game can run on pretty much any system. I mean, if you ran this game on a laptop and I ran it on my beastly PC, we'd probably be running it on the same settings, at the same resolution, at the same frame rate, but again, I'm sure that will be fixed one day. I also gotta say that I spent a lot of time with this game recently, and one thing that I have noticed a lot is this game will kill your graphics driver, legitimately crashes them, and it was able to even crash my computer to a point where my computer fully shut down twice. So most of the recorded footage here is actually not my own, and I'd like to thank Cougar Buys and Demon Souls for taking the time to help record gameplay for me. Their channels are in the description. And again, thank you so much. So yeah, if your computer shuts off in the middle of playing the game, that's why. I've been playing this game on and off since it's been released, so this crashing thing is a recent bug and it should be fixed soon, but it's still really unfortunate. This game is Ark Survival Evolved. You can pick it up on Steam for $30 or your regional equivalent. It's also on Xbox in early access and will come to PS4 when the game is complete. Thanks guys, and I will see you next time.